to try to talk fast. I'd actually like to get back to some of those desserts that they just placed on the table. So, I actually got a request from Jack Clark of USWF about a week ago, and he asked me, he said, "Hey JB, would you like to speak at our annual gala next week?" And I thought, man, it's tough being an ambassador sometime, right? A lot of times you get the opportunity to speak, which is amazing, but also it's very difficult to speak in front of large groups. Growing up as the youngest of four, I was the run of the family, and I wasn't always the most confident guy. I didn't have a ton of friends, and so a lot of the confidence that I built in the dynamic of the life that I live now was established through the sport of wrestling. And so I have a story that I like to tell you guys. First, I'd like to thank the United States Wrestling Foundation. Secondly, I'd like to thank all the men and women in uniform tonight. Thank you guys for inviting us down to Camp Pendleton to be a part of a wonderful training camp. And lastly, I'd like to thank my wife. Whenever I get an opportunity to thank my wife, it gives me a few brownie points. And so now that I'm up here, my beautiful wife, Jordan Burroughs, is sitting right to my right side. She's amazing. That should give me some extra dinners next week when we get home. Okay, so I'm gonna set the mood for you guys. It's July 1st, 2005. This was actually the first day as a collegiate coach that you could contact a recruit. It was shortly after my junior year of high school, and I had finished second in the state of New Jersey at the wrestling tournament, a little bit better than Chris. And so that day was the first day that you could have a visit, or you could be in contact with a coach, and I thought that it would be a really special day for me. Being that I was second in the state in New Jersey, where we had only one class, and it was an extremely tough state at the time. We had churned out multiple NCAA Division I All-Americans and a lot of highly ranked guys throughout the country. I thought surely being second in the state would draw some coaches to come into my household, to send me some letters of affirmation, some questionnaires, and to decide to have me be a part of their wrestling program. And so I remember that day I was super excited. The day before I was charging my phone. At the time I didn't even have a cell phone. I was still a young man. That's dating me a little bit, but I didn't have a cell phone. I remember having a cordless phone. And so I had the cordless phone on the charging base the entire day before. I'm like, I have to have this thing at 100%. I know surely one of these Division I college coaches are going to be giving me a call tomorrow. So the day arrived. I woke up early, made sure the chip phone was charged, picked up the phone 100%. My best buddy lived right next door. His name was Vince Jones. He was actually an All-American at Nebraska in 2009. Went over to his house. We were playing video games all afternoon. Looked at my watch. It's about 11 a.m. No calls yet. Like, I'll give it some time. It's just early. Coaches are probably just getting to their office on the East Coast. West Coast coaches, still 7 a.m. there. 3-hour difference. They're not ready to make any phone calls yet. Give it some time. About 1 p.m., looking at the phone, I'm like, man, maybe I'm out of range. I haven't gotten any phone calls yet. I got to go back home, get closer to the base. That's going to change a few things. I'm going to go back home. I'll see you later, Vince. I'm going to make sure that I'm in range so I can receive some calls this evening. 4 p.m. arrives. Still nothing. Like, man, 4 p.m., I understand. Most college teams practice around 2 or 3. They're probably still in practice. Immediately after the practice, they'll go down, they'll sit down, they'll go through their list of recruits, they'll give me a call. 8 p.m. arrives. My mom's home from work, dad's home from work. They're sitting at the dinner table. They're looking like, JB, what's going on? You've got a somber face. Usually I'm pretty upbeat. I'm an easygoing guy, fun-loving guy, but I always have a smile on my face. And so they asked me, what's wrong? So I told them the story. And they said, well, did anyone call? And I looked at them and I said, 0 calls. And so I look in this era of recruitment and prestige at a young age, and I look at all these guys going on their visits, and I think back to my time as a senior in high school. I got invited to go on 0 official visits as a senior in high school. There were a lot of coaches that passed up on the opportunity to have me wrestle for their program, and rightfully so. At the time, I wasn't very accomplished, and no one could have known that I'd become an Olympic and world champion at a particular point in my career. And so moments like these, and just describing these stories and these time periods in my life, really have become pivotal in creating characteristics that have described who I am and the lifestyle that I lead as a man. And so 3 of those characteristics are: 1, courage. The courage to move forward confidently, even in the midst of uncertainty. Number 2, perseverance. Perseverance necessary to continue down this path that I hope to carve for myself, regardless of the amount of obstacles that I knew I'd face. And then lastly, number 3 is humility. The humility to remain grounded in the midst of a really successful career that I've had as of late. And so, one of the things that I want to describe tonight is the culture that we live in at a young age. I suppose I could describe myself as a millennial. I like brunch on Sundays. But it's unique because we really live in a culture of convenience, a culture of celebration at a very young age, a place where most people at our age are avoiding discomfort. While we're at Camp Pendleton grinding, a lot of my friends are at home enjoying mimosas and rooftop parties. And people, especially kids in this day and age, always look for the easy way out. And so I think as wrestlers, as Marines, as adults, as parents, as CEOs, as businessmen and businesswomen, it's time for us to change that narrative. In order to change that narrative, we've got to set an example. And so setting an example for me personally meant to always be a leader, not only in words, but in actions. And so what if we changed that narrative into embracing the hard stuff, really doing the hard things, right? Extending yourself to someone in need of help, waking up early in the morning to be more productive, living a life of integrity amongst the temptations of life, or even decide to have the confidence to wear an outfit like this in public. You know, it's very interesting because I speak on behalf of a lot of the wrestlers and the men and women that I come into contact with every day. And I see and I hear the stories and I have interpersonal relationships with these guys, and I understand the work ethic that's necessary to compete at such a high level. We've won on the world stage. You see in the videos that we've become World Cup champions, World Championship team. But we've also lost on the world stage. And that's something that you don't see as often. One of the things that I always try to stress to all my friends and followers is, if you watch me on Instagram or any social media page, you'd understand that most of what you see is just a highlight of my life. It's all highlight reel. It's not real. If you just followed me on Instagram, you think that my wife and I never argue, that my kids never cried, and I never lost a wrestling match. But the truth is, none of those things are true. And so the unique thing about that is, regardless of the losses that we've accrued in our lifetime, we've never stopped trying. I've come to realize that no amount of integrity exempts you from defeat. But I've also discovered that defeat is only temporary. Character won't protect you from circumstance. It can only prepare you. And so what we're willing to do in wrestling is understand that it teaches these characteristics that develop young men and young women into champions, not just on the mat, but in life. And so, with that being said, I got a quote, or not a quote, but scripture that I read this morning. It's from Hebrews 12:11. It says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." And so this fall, our team, Team USA, the 9 guys to my left and to my right, we're on a journey to do something pretty tough. We're on a journey to do something hard. We're attempting to become the first American freestyle wrestling squad in the history of USA Wrestling to win back-to-back World Team Championships. And so that's why we're here. And so I'm thankful for the Marine Corps and their invitation for us to come here and train at Camp Pendleton. Thank you guys for the inspiration. Thank you for everyone listening tonight. And so we ask that you join us on our quest to become the best team in the world, to go back-to-back as World Team Champions. Win or lose, we're willing to do the hard work. Thank you guys.